So, hey guys, good afternoon or almost evening here in the Philippines, and I hope it's awesome wherever you are right now in the world. My name's TJ, and I'm the GBO ambassador for the Philippines. And I see some familiar faces here, like GBO ambassador of Hong Kong, Lian. Hey Lian, what's up?
Hey,
Hey Lian. So, the agenda for today is first, we're gonna have a minute each to introduce ourselves, what we do in our business, and then next is we go to the main event. How do we leverage the internet, right? Or, formally, it's leveraging the internet in 2021 to reach a broader audience, which would be done by our speakers here, the elephants, like that's their actual name, guys. And next would be after the presentation, we will have an open discussion where people could ask questions or share their ideas about anything related to the internet. So sounds good, everyone? Yeah, cool. All right, so I'm gonna do this time. I usually do counterclockwise, and no, David, I don't call you first. It's just you're always on the top right. This time, the top right is Leanne, which is ambassador of Hong Kong. So she's a master of introducing herself. So let's start with her. Ready, Leanne?
ready.
Let's go.
Show me the timer.
Okay, I'll show you the timer. No worries. All right. Okay, so I'll give you a minute. There you go.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Leanne Slaughter, and I am born in Canada, raised in the US. My mother tongue is Cantonese, my father tongue is English, and my background is in science. I was a research scientist until the end of 2019. Now I run a business as a science content writer, consultant, coach, and community builder. And I'm the ambassador for Hong Kong. And that's really the majority of the community building work I'm doing right now.
You have like
I would
20
like to
more
share those
seconds.
seconds with somebody else.
Okay, so let's move it to Martin. You're up.
Okay. Okay. Hi, I'm Martin Jacob. I live in Valencia, Spain. Originally, I'm from Lithuania. Who I am? I'm digital business architect, as I call myself, and full stack marketer. Doing this for the last 2 decades. Already building startups, helping startup founders with their marketing efforts. And also, one of the projects I'm managing is helping startups raise money or become investors ready. So, yep, that's it about me.
Ooh, okay, you have 20 more seconds. Am I giving you guys too much time? But okay, that's good. Let's move to Kato, the opposite of Duggo. Let's go, Kato.
Hi, my name is Cato Rasmussen. I'm originally Norwegian. I live in France and have been working all over the places from Philippines to North America, South America, all over Europe, etc. Primarily in telecommunications, but more on the business side of telecommunication as opposed to the technology of networks and stuff like that, although I know a bit about it. Uh, I chose a couple of years ago to jump off the corporate life. I was fed up of command and control chains and ignorance. So I thought I could change all of that, but I'm obviously wrong, right? I can't do that. But what I'm doing is that I'm facilitating companies, and I'm now working with a guy from Aspen Institute to create what we call salons for CEOs, etc., to come and discuss a joint agenda. So that's what I do.
Thanks, Kato. So, as you heard earlier, that's the actual alarm where, it's been a minute. So, just because
I know.
others are so fast, Kato's like sweet
Yeah.
timing it. Okay. All right, next would be Sharon. Let's go.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm from the Philippines. My name is Sharon Aitona and I'm member number 2 of GBO Philippines. I'm a friend also of TJ and he's the one of course who invited me here. So I do taxation, accounting and business registration.
Okay. Anything else, Sharon, you want to share You have a lot of time.
What else? Well, last week we talked about starting a business in the Philippines, expanding your business in the Philippines. So that's what I really do. We help business owners register and get started in the Philippines.
All right.
So our clients ranges from individuals and corporations.
Thanks, Sharon. Okay. Um, Next on my list are the elephants, so I'm gonna skip that since you're the highlight of the show. There's two Renees here, so there's Renee Crossing and Renee Crossing, so she's like a ninja. So I'm gonna give it to Renee the ninja. Let's go, Renee Crossing.
Okay, thanks. I'll just introduce this Renee. The other one I think will remain quiet. So I finished my undergraduate science research degree in 2013. And during that degree, I realized that there was so much exciting research happening that I never got to hear about at school. And I think that most people in their day-to-day lives didn't get to hear about. So I decided to become a teacher and taught science for a few years. And then I missed research and went back to it for another couple of years. But I've loved writing since I was a kid. So now I'm a very new to the business world, and I'm beginning to write about science for audiences ranging from teenagers right through to the general public and other scientists as well. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Renee. So we have two scientists today, so that's interesting. Last but not the least, Elias.
Hello, my friends. My name is Elias Kokinos. I was born in Sweden for your information. I'm living in Cyprus. I'm an auditor and accountant. I work for 7.5 years in the United Kingdom and about 20 in Cyprus. I have my own audit firm, and I'm dealing with all aspects of the accounting, audit, taxation, consulting, setting up a business in Cyprus and abroad. And I'm also looking forward for meeting Sharon. Just give me your spare capacity in order to arrange our meetings.
Yes, I owe you that schedule.
All right. You have 20 more seconds?
Use it as you like.
All right. So I owe a couple of people some 20 seconds. Good for 20 seconds time. Okay. Next would be David. Would you like to introduce yourself, David? And then would you have the honors to introduce your daughter, because you know your daughter the best. I hope you know your daughter, right? Like wink, wink.
So, from Switzerland, but living for the last 25 years in the Philippines, also assisting companies to get set up in the Philippines. So 99% of my clients are from overseas. We do bookkeeping, company registration, local business permits, FDA registrations. And I'm also involved in a small internet service provider. And I also sell disaster relief products. So that's it for me. And now a little bit about Manushka. So Manushka, of course, was born in Switzerland also, and she did a degree in business management at McGill University in Montreal. From there, she went to Korea and she studied Korean and got a scholarship at Yonsei University, where she did her master's in finance. And from there, she took a very different turn. And apart from her collaborating with me on many projects, she founded the Big E Digital Marketing Agency. So Manushka worked as the Swiss Social Media Hub Coordinator for Asia, working out of the Swiss Embassy in Singapore, where she had a strategic impact on how the Swiss Department of Foreign Affairs communicated with the people of Asia. One of her other responsibilities was to educate embassy staff, including ambassadors, on how to communicate online and how to effectively use online media for crisis management. Among others, Manushka has assisted Amazon Europe to re-strategize the social media marketing of their fashion department. Manushka has clients across various industries, and her latest project is for two artists in the Philippines who will be shortly minting NFTs on the blockchain. So that's a little bit about Manushka, and I think we can let her take over with her presentation.
Thank you, David, for your wonderful introduction. And please go ahead, Manushka. And here's my round of
Thank you,
applause for you.
TJ. Thank you for having me, everyone, and for taking the time Let me know if I tend to speak too fast because I get excited about my topic. I'll just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see the presentation clearly?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
We suggest, can you make it like full screen?
Sure.
If there's a way.
Is that
All
good?
right, that looks better. Let's go.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, we're all here because we know digital marketing is a necessity nowadays. We can't really escape it anymore. But we could take a look into the evolution of marketing on the digital world and what it means in terms of our possibilities and the different options that we have. So it started quite easy. We had Yahoo, we had Google then, and if we wanted to communicate online, we simply had to set our location or just put specific locations for the users that would find our business on search engines. That was great. It was a great start, but things got a little bit more complex. Nowadays, when we're talking about digital marketing, there's a lot more than just search engines. There's also rich media. A lot of those terms you might have already heard or might not be completely sure about. So don't worry about that because we actually have a cheat sheet where you'll have a lot more about the lingo and terms like this. And I wanted to introduce to you John Wanamaker. He's a marketing pioneer. Maybe you've heard about him as the guy who started the first department store in the world back in the early part of the 20th century. And he famously said, "Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half." Well, if John had all the tools that we have today, he wouldn't have to worry which half is actually working, because he would be able to see specifically how many people are seeing the advertising that he's putting online, how many are then engaging with it, whether it's through clicks or sharing or spending time just watching a video. And then he would be able to also tell how many people are doing what we're asking them to, whether following a social media page or buying a product. And finally, he would be able to tell how much of that money is creating a return on investment. And there's something quite interesting that we don't always really take the time to analyze. It's the fact that we have owned, paid, and earned media. And we need all three of these categories to work together in order to have a strategy that's really effective. Because if we're only focusing on our owned or paid media, we lose out a lot in terms of gathering some efficiency and really making the most of the work that we're putting out there. And to get a little more into detail about these, so when we're talking about owned media, it's everything that we're creating, from our websites to our social media, as well as our email lists. This is where we have the most control and where we can really brand everything with our own colors, style, and language. Then we have paid media. We're paying for when it comes to advertising, whether it's digital or traditional advertising. Here we get a lot of tools, we get a lot of data, and then it's a matter of what are we going to do with it. And I think the most important one is the last one, earned media, because this is really a sign that we're doing things well. When people are sharing about our brand, about our product, without us actually paying them for it, that shows a lot of credibility, and it shows that people are enjoying what it is that we're doing, whether it's a service or a product, or just even the way that we're branding ourselves. And so if John had all of this, he would have had a much easier time knowing which money actually was spent correctly, because he would be able to target the audience he really wants to talk with. He would be able to talk to them on the platforms where they're spending most time. And he would also have a lot of data that he can use in order to know what's working and adapt very quickly. So now that we have this idea of what it is that we can do, what are some of the actual ways we can initiate this? Well, we can look at our audiences. There's a number of ways that we can decide who we want to talk to. And I'll take an example, actually. I don't know if you can see me on camera.
No.
Maybe. No? Okay. So I'm holding in my hands the product. I'll show you later on. It's a baby oil from Petit Jovial, who's one of my clients. And this is an organic baby oil that is made for massages and taking care of your baby. And it's a very nice product because it's all made in London. It's all with natural organic products. And so Petit Jovial doesn't just want to talk to people in London. We also want to choose who we're going to be talking to. And so with behavioral targeting, we can decide on the demographics. So a woman in her 30s located in London. But we can also select women that are interested in babies as well as natural and organic beauty. So here's Mary, and she's going to see an ad somewhere for Petit Jovial specifically because we have all that data about her. But what happens when she comes to our website, but she leaves without actually making a purchase? Well, that's also the case of John, who we're going to retarget. So John came on our website because he's interested in baby care. Maybe he has a kid, maybe he wants to buy something for someone else. But the reason why we're retargeting him is because he's already shown some interest. And this is the most likely to purchase segment when we're retargeting people that have already shown that whether it's our product or a brand, they've been on our website, they've been on our social media, and we can really target them in a cost-effective way. This is also a great way to target people when we have some specific inventories, for example, that we want to move. And then we spoke about, and we also have data on people that are similar to them. So we can build a lookalike audience. With a lookalike audience, we're targeting people that have already shown similar interest and taste than the people who are our existing customers, website visitors, or even our followers on social media. So this is a way that we can really just target people that have similar interests and so are more likely to purchase our products. Now that we know who we want to talk to, what about the different options we have in terms of communication? So we have display ads. You've definitely seen display ads most times you've been on the internet. They're everywhere, from websites about news or about blogs, even on apps. So you have different formats when it comes to display ads. They can be very simple, like text ads or a picture, or they can be rich media, such as a video. The advantage when it comes to display ads is that it's very much attention grabbing. Sometimes it actually becomes annoying when it's interstitial and it's something that pops up on a screen. But it's also a great way to engage with people, especially if we're doing something that is entertaining or educational. We get to show our products to the people that we targeted because of all the data that the websites we're working with have. And I'm thinking specifically of the Google Display Network. So Google Display Networks, it's over 2 million websites, videos, and apps, and that represent 90% of internet users. You also have other display networks such as Facebook or Apple. So you have all of the data that they gather from all of their network so that you can really hyper-target the people that you're speaking with. So you know their interests as well as their demographics and their habits. So with the example of Petit, the baby brand, we could have a video that would be specifically targeted to parents, and it would show them how to do a massage to get your child to relax before bed. And so you could have this pop up, say, on the New York Times for people in the UK or in France or in Europe, somewhere where we're selling those products. And that will inspire them to get to know more about the brand because it's something that will be useful to them since it's new information as well. When it comes to sponsored links, we've done research on Google. Like every time we want to make a purchase almost now, we go on Google and we search for more information about it. And you might have noticed that if you're searching for gardening tools, a few days later, you'll be seeing ads for gardening tools on all the websites where you're going. And that's the same idea, is that we get all that data and we can precisely target people based on their behavior online. The only issue is, even if we're spending a lot of time and money on SEO, search engine optimization, on our website, the chances of ending on the first page of the search results is quite small. And the only way we can really be at the top is if we're spending money on sponsored links. The good thing with this, though, is that we can also be very precise in our budget and the targeting that we have. And so we can also customize the messaging depending on who we're speaking to at that precise time. So for example, if we look again at Petit Jovial and their baby oil, we want to be found for words such as baby oil massage. But we don't necessarily want to say the exact same thing to people that are based in France or people in the UK, or we don't necessarily want to say the exact same thing to men and to women. And so with the sponsored links, we actually get to tailor the message when we set up our advertising. Next, let's look at affiliate marketing. So it might sound a little bit like the Tupperware clubs of yesterday, when we would all get together and talk about our favorite Tupperwares, but it's actually a lot more efficient and elaborate nowadays. And we can go through sites such as Share a Sale, where we can post our products and the type of commission that we want to give to affiliates. And affiliates just go on the websites and select who they want to work with. And so when you see influencers or bloggers that are sharing links to try out products or buy simply products that they're recommending, this is how it works. They're getting a commission on all the sales that they're making. But for us, is there really a big commitment? No, because we're only paying them when they're selling. So it's really a great way to the cost. So in the case of Petit Jovial and our baby oil, we can have share or sell some of our items, and then every time a blogger, say a mommy blogger, puts a story on her social media, she can have a link there so that people can just swipe up and go directly by her recommendation. Something that I find really useful and really underrated is email marketing. And it's proven more and more important, especially in the last few years, when we've seen that social media platforms like Facebook can decide for a reason or another that your account is breaching its community standards and decides that they want to send your account. When we only focus on social media with our efforts, we're losing out on communicating with people directly because there's always a middleman. Here, when we're doing email marketing, we're really owning the content in terms of the branding and the messaging, but we are also able to do a lot more than sending out promos and coupons. We can also educate our customers about our products and how to use them, or new ideas on things that we can do with them. So for example, Petit Jovial body oil, it's not just about giving a massage at the end of the day to relax your baby. It's also a way that you can help them when they have constipation or diarrhea or whatever, and we can teach them how to use these products to achieve these results. So this is one great way to really communicate with people, but we also have great results in terms of the click rates. So it's one of the best when you have qualified contacts, so people that you have a verified email with that are real people, and there's ways to clean up your mailing list. We get 10 to 20% click rates. So this is a really important tool. Then social media. Yes, I just badmouth social media platforms because they own all the data and they own the users, but we still have to be there. One of the reasons why is simply because it's expected from brands to have a social media presence. When you are a consumer and you see that your brand is non-existent on Facebook and Instagram, most likely is you won't take them as seriously. You won't give them as much credibility. But at the same time, what's interesting for us is that it's a captivated audience. When people are scrolling on Instagram, they're really looking at what's on the screen. And if you do your things, your posts right, you will actually fill out their screen. And for a couple of seconds, you'll have their full undivided attention. But however, there's also a trick here, is that social media isn't there just to be nice to businesses. It's there to sell user data. And that's why nowadays you will have a very hard time to grow on social media in an organic kind of way. And the reason is simply because they want you to buy some advertising on their space. So here, when it comes to boosting a post or specific ad for social media, always look at the content that you've already posted that's doing well with your audience, because chances are it will also do well when you're then targeting people that are similar to your audience. So influencers, it's become a very big topic in terms of marketing. It can include anyone from celebrities to micro-influencers. And interestingly, the bigger the followers, it doesn't mean the bigger the results. And I've read some interesting case studies where they've compared the same campaign done with a celebrity and with a micro-influencer to see that the celebrity didn't have as much of the credibility. So really working with people that are authentic and aren't just there to post a product on their page and say, hey, use that, is going to be a lot more useful when you're working with people that have a dedicated niche and that have a follower that is really engaged with what they're creating. And so when we're looking at our example for Petit Jovial, we could be here doing a crossover between the affiliate marketing and the influencers. So an influencer could have an affiliate link where they're promoting the product and then people can go and buy it. So it's also good for them directly. But we also have other techniques where when we're a very small brand, we can actually just send products for free to influencers and hope that they will want to talk about it. Here, we do have less leverage when it comes to giving free products because it also means we can ask less from influencers. But we still need to be very detailed about what it is that we're expecting, especially if we're paying them for it, and that we want to be able to use that content. And finally, when we're looking at partnerships, it's one of the most popular ways to grow a business right now in terms of its marketing, because it's a way of creating some mutually beneficial relationships with other brands, individuals, or websites that have a similar target market, but very different products. So if we look at some recent examples, we have Louis Vuitton and BMW, or GoPro and Red Bull. These are not products that are necessarily things we would think of putting together, but they're looking at selling to the same people. And so we can keep a message that makes sense for both brands and puts them in a new light for customers. In the context of Petit Jovial and our baby oil, we could partner with a brand for toys or for baby diapers, things that would go well together and could be bundled as a new item or new product sale. And so the few key takeaways I'm hoping to leave you with are simplicity, creativity, and always keep in mind your audience. So simplicity, it's not just because we have so many tools and options that we have to make things complicated. We have to stay to our brand and keep our message very clear. And then in terms of creativity, we have so many options when it comes to the partnerships or the influencers that we're working with or the way that we're going to be creating our videos and things like that. Use the tools that you have, but try to do something that's going to be different and still true to the brand that you have. And obviously, the audience. Everything that we're doing has to make sense for the audience we're trying to talk to. Because at the end of the day, these are the people we're trying to reach, and we need to resonate with them. So finally, if you would like to know more in terms of technical language or some list of resources and providers for affiliate marketing or platforms to work on, you can go to this link and have joined to our mailing list, and we'll send you a little freebie. And that's about it. Thank you for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Manushka. So now we're open for good conversations, questions, and anything intriguing. Who wants to start? Okay, everyone's shy to ask a question. Let me see.
Okay, I start then.
There we go. This is what I like about
Well, first of all, thank you very much for good presentation, good flow, good messages, etc. There's always to any presentation there are questions, obviously. So I've been over the last number of years been thinking a lot about the psychology and the neurology acting on within companies and also in the target audience, not customers but audience, because customers are transactional. So there's and the digital ecosystem, and particularly at the end there was a partnership, which is essentially creating an ecosystem yeah, it becomes quite complex. So that will take much more than just marketing, wouldn't it? In your opinion, wouldn't that take a lot of preparation before you actually execute on it? And what type of preparation have you been exposed to working with your clients in that sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, it will first of all depend on the scale, because we could have something very specific, such as an event partnership, where we don't necessarily need months in order to execute. And we can also have campaigns that are a lot more complex, where we're going to have co-branding, really what we're trying to achieve, because it could be, when you were talking, for example, of the salons earlier, it could be specific for an event where we decide, well, this makes sense, and then we can tap into each other's audiences. But in terms of how much degree of preparation you need, of course, it's going to depend on what you're trying to achieve and on the scale of the marketing that you're going to be putting into it. Mm-hmm. So in terms of my experiences, I would say most of it has been around events, not so much around co-branding and special new items, because you could go as far as creating a specific co-branded item. Like you have Crayola lipsticks. I'm not sure if it was from NARS or L'Oreal, where you have a new item that is being created where you're tapping both the Crayola fans and the lipstick fans. So you could go this far. Be on a bundle product where you have, say, candles from Diptyque and then a box of chocolates, because it's something that you would want to have together when you're having a relaxed kind of evening. And it's also something that we see a lot around Christmas time, when we just bundle products together. And this doesn't require a lot of preparation. It's something that, depending on the scale of the campaign, you can do in a very straightforward way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, no, it contributes to the answer of the question, because it's quite broad, and also you are focused when you say or give your messages. You're focused on fast-moving consumer goods type of thing. There's nothing wrong in that, mm-hmm. Obviously. So from my perspective, it's a bit like, okay, listen to people and pick a feather of every bird that flies by, yeah, and then try to put it together. In my particular focus right now is to look at the bigger picture in the world, yeah. So the uncertainty around, or driven by, the pandemic, for instance. The cracking in the globalization and the logistic systems, and all the havoc created by extreme weather that is more and more frequent, the tension between East and West, you know, and the politicians that are more focused on their own power than the best for their nations, and so on. Yeah, and then how can leaders, CEOs, and so on contribute to create a more certainty in people's mind? Yeah, and that could go as much for L'Oreal as it can do for Orange or Vodafone or the healthcare system. Yeah, so I'm thinking in those terms. So a lot of stuff that you said, I can take with me. I said, okay, how can I make use of that? And how can I make use of those thoughts in the digital marketing space? Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. So there's not the right or wrong or indifferent kind of answer. It's more picking the ideas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you, or am I just rambling to you?
No, I see what you mean. But I think here it's really about relationship management at the end of the day, or just relationship. Let's take out the formality of it. Because when it comes to ideas and convincing people, you need to have on your side or on your team people that have similar ideas, but that are considered topic experts in certain domains. But it's also a question of bringing in new ideas and having all of this come together and make sense to the people you're trying to speak to. And it wouldn't be necessarily about tapping into their own audience if you're a public figure or that you're having salons of CEOs and trying to get those ideas together. It's really more about how you get those relationships to be beneficial for everyone, but also create new synergies.
Absolutely, totally agree with you.
Okay, guys, so we have new visitors, Bernard and Michael. Welcome. I actually have a question too, but before mine, because it's a bit intriguing, and it also reinforces of what you said earlier. It's actually based on the clients that I had during the pandemic. But I'd like to prioritize other people if they have questions. Anyone else have questions or something to say? I'm looking at Leanne.
Sure. Piggybacking on the discussion of this call that we were just having, and earlier when David introduced you, he mentioned your involvement with using social media on crisis management. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind, to your level of comfort, sharing something about that.
You mean like specific examples or how to do it?
Yes, and yes. Your level of comfort.
Well, again, here it's going to depend on the situation because it's difficult to generalize.
Yes.
But I think some of the things that we can apply to most situations is that the message has to stay authentic and that people know when we're lying or when we're saying things are just obviously trying to cover up a situation instead of being honest about what's happening. Especially nowadays when we have so many groups that are discussing issues on social media, it's much harder to cover up a situation and not owning up to it. Some of the situations that I had to deal with in my role at the embassy was specifically when we had in Sri Lanka an employee who was kidnapped by a group of people. And this turned into a huge controversy on social media. So we had people going on our regular Facebook page and writing all kinds of things about what they supposed had happened and accusing the embassy of certain things, accusing certain groups in Sri Lanka about other things. And so how do we deal with this when we're not there to be policing their ideas or their arguments? Well, we can try to lead a conversation in a way that it stays open or like we should have without necessarily saying what we think and it's a little bit more sensitive as an embassy because you're not really supposed to be doing diplomacy or public diplomacy in the social media sphere in that way. So it was a lot more about just policing the level of dialogue, as in we want to keep things polite and nice, but we can't stop people from talking. What we can do is simply being very transparent with the information that we give out. And so making sure that we talk about the events in a factual way without making an assumption about what's happening. Another situation that happened was also with the black money laundering. That was a scandal in India. So we had a lot of people bad-mouthing Switzerland for being a platform where Indian politicians and people of influence would go and hide their money in. Really deny that, and we can't really contribute to saying it's not happening when there's a lot of information that's showing the contrary. So here again, it's more about putting out our piece of what we're thinking is happening in a way that's been controlled because it is a government entity, and then just letting people have a conversation without trying to control them, because then they would see that we're trying to hide something or that we're not being authentic.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really fascinating, and what I took away from your presentation is a lot of the language, like how you label like different aspects of advertising, and then what I'm taking away from what you just shared is how skillful of a facilitation it can be in a lot of different. There's a huge spectrum of situations that kind of skill serves.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to that, and I don't know if you've been following what's happening in the U.S. with Pfizer and Project Veritas, I think that's also a very good example of how you're controlling information and dealing with crisis. And it's not necessarily how much money you have to throw at it, because the information is going to be out there if people are interested.
Yes.
All right.
Question.
Go, Renee. Let's go.
Thank you very much for sharing today. I wonder about when you're moving into a new medium, or when you're changing what strategy you used in the past. How do you how long do you leave it, or how I'm wondering about how you evaluate whether what you've launched into is effective. How long does it take to realize that you need to change your strategy on a medium? And if you're going into a new medium that you haven't used before, I'm trying to, I guess, work out the balance between researching and making sure you're matching what's the tone of that medium versus, just jumping in and doing it.
Yeah. So when you're saying medium, do you mean in terms of social media platforms or in terms of advertising tools?
Kind of both. More platform though. Yeah, okay. More. Yeah.
So when you're on social media, it's really a long-term goal. You can't expect results overnight, and can take a lot of time. It is better to invest on money once you do have a page or a profile that looks like it has enough substance, because it's going to be hard for people to find you if they don't know you exist. And the only way that you can really show people that you're there is by spending money on the platform. So when social media started, like Facebook and Instagram, it was a lot easier to grow organically. But since they're selling us people's data, it's almost impossible now, because the way that the algorithms work, it won't push your content even to the people that are already following you, or unless they've engaged with you recently. So it does take a while. In terms of working on new platforms for advertising, what's great about this is that you can see data very quickly. So for example, if you're doing search engine advertising, you can see after a week or so if what you've been using or the metrics you've set are working efficiently. You could start adapting your budget very quickly, even after 24 or 48 hours, depending on the results that you're seeing. But usually it takes a good 1 to 2 weeks to really see how much it's working or not. But you don't have to wait that long to go in and keywords working at all, I shouldn't be spending money on it, or there's too much competition on them, and adjust right away.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, mine's a bit controversial and part of what really happened last year. So, are you ready for my question?
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so platforms like Facebook, they have some contrabands. For an instance, if you want to promote something along the lines with sexual related stuff, you can only promote, you're only allowed to run an ad for protection, like condoms, and family planning. So I have a client, her product was fine line, intimate lifestyle and clothing, so anything sexy. Facebook doesn't necessarily say it's a contraband, because you could still sell those, but it's along the lines of what they're trying to ban as well. Now, this client that consulted with me decided to expand her business. So she started selling adult recreational toys, or, not to sugarcoat it, sex toys, for instance. So she asked me, how can I promote this over Facebook? And I said, oh, that's a difficult battle, because that's basically a contraband, because they only specified you're only allowed to promote 2 kinds of products. Maybe you got away from your first one because it's categorized as clothing somehow, but this one is very close to what they said should only be allowed. Another contraband there would be lending. You can't just run an ad for lending on Facebook. There are certain guidelines that you have to follow. So why am I bringing this up? I really like the point that you mentioned earlier, where you have to collect as much data points from your clients, not just on their social media, get their email, mobile number, and all these things. So it would really help you in your marketing. But at the same time, I just want to simulate what would you advise my client if you were in my shoes back then, and I'll share you what
Mm-hmm.
I'll share to you what I said to her. So the advice that I
Okay.
told her, Facebook doesn't have any control on your website because it's separated. It's a third party. It's not really part of the Facebook universe. So what you can do is you can run a show on Facebook. Who knows? Like, ask for love advice kind of show, and it is like linked to your website below. And whatever they find on the website, well, there are those clothing products, and out of nowhere there's a category where it's totally different, but still the same
Mm-hmm.
company. So you can do that route. So that was the advice that I gave this client. But if you were in my shoes during that time, which is approximately a year ago, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of advice in terms of marketing and leveraging the internet, because that's the topic today, right? Would
Yeah.
you would have given her if she approached you?
Well, I completely agree. Exclude Facebook just because she has certain types of products that are on the hot list. But
Sorry,
you need to.
Manushka, can you repeat that? Because I lost you for like 10
Okay.
seconds. Yeah. One more time.
So I was saying that don't exclude Facebook of the strategy. You can still include it. But the goal with social media is never to keep people on social media, but to get them to your website and to your online shop. Not just because you have the branding control, but also because you can say whatever you want to say on your own website. But I think here with this particular example, you can still play around with Facebook quite literally. And when it comes to adult toys and things like that, you can be suggestive without showing too much. Because after all, when it comes to sex and adult entertainment, suggestion is also a very effective marketing style.
I agree. Yeah, because ever since that kind of client approached me, all kinds of contraband clients also approached me. Tobacco approached me. Well, I have a lending license in the Philippines and a lending company, so I also like my partner said, TJ, how do we promote on Facebook? I'm like, oh man, we're in the lending space. Like that's a contraband too. So yeah, I was curious, like
Well,
what
when
would
it
other
comes
people would
to
do? Yeah, like an
when it comes to
expert.
lending, you don't need to say, come here and I'm going to give you money at this percentage, but you can talk about all the things that go around finance. So you're having some issues with sending your kids to school. Here are some suggestions that we have, and then they go to your website and they see that there's a lot more to what you're doing, for example.
By the way,
So
yeah, I want to join the conversation
Let's go, Martin.
because we're running the information about the financial services. Basically, we are coaching startups. Usually, Facebook also bans our ads like every day, every time we're running new campaigns, because they're thinking what we are lenders and we are discriminating some sort of people because we are not giving them ability to see those lending options. Even we are never lended money, never said what we are lending. Anyway, we kind of putting ourselves in that category, like financial products, let's say this way. And and basically, TJ, what you said, I had also similar clients who were selling some, I don't know, sexual healthy products, let's say, not toys, but maybe pills or whatever. And they said, okay, we want to go into internet. I said, okay, you cannot use same channels the same way like other products, but you can be smart and provide information about health issues, other things. The best thing, like for adult things, what I saw at least at the moment, what works perfectly, you're finding out influencers who has podcasts and they integrate your brands into their shows. And for example, some of the influencers I'm following, and they integrating, by the way, the same tools, the same products in their shows. Basically, overnight, they're getting 200, 300,000 of people watching their shows overnight in 24 hours, usually, because they have really big following. And those brands are advertising and contracting those influencers for a long time, like years, 2 years contracts, and so on. So, and it works. And basically, they advertise their shows on Facebook, even you as a brand can say, hey, look, can you advertise your show on the Facebook? Just the show, not our tools or our products, but just your show, and we will provide the budget for this so you can reach bigger audiences. So that's how you can leverage this by not saying nothing about your products, but just attracting audience to the show where people will introduce and incorporate your brand. So it's a little bit different strategy, but yeah, it's channels. How each channel is different, so you need to think how you can advertise on each channel and put your product in different light. Let's say this way. Of course, it's a gray zone.
Thank you, Martin. Would you like to say anything, Manishka, to Martin?
No, I think it makes complete sense, and it's a great way to work around the rules, because we've seen a lot of pages now and that they're not necessarily selling sex toys or lending money or anything controversial. Their accounts get suspended because the community guidelines of Facebook keep changing, and they're always, you said, sometimes even it's like, oh, because we're not targeting specific people, and it just, you have to find ways around these, and you need to always make sure that this is not the principal way that you're communicating with your audience.
I agree. The most weird thing that happened this year with me and Facebook, I posted a photo of tuna because I invested in a tuna trading business, and I think David knows this. And out of nowhere, Facebook took down my post because apparently it looks like we're poaching fish or something like endangered wildlife. And I was like, this is tuna. You buy this on the market. How can small business owners in wet markets actually promote their products on Facebook, which is widely accepted here? So I was like, when I look at the browsing, it's so unfair. Like if your tuna is fresh and it's not sealed, they're gonna ban you. But if you put it in a packaging, it's okay. So I'm like, wow, but what's the difference? You're still, you're still gonna eat the animal if you're gonna think about it, but or the meat. So I don't know. Like there's also like this weird fine line that Facebook follows when it comes to their community policies, which is I find funny, but it's your platform, your rules. It's like your house, your rules, right? So you gotta follow it.
But
I,
TJ,
I,
no,
Go ahead.
I guess
sorry.
I'd be curious to know if there was a human behind that decision.
This is exactly what I wanted to talk. Yesterday, I talked with my Facebook manager about these issues. We're talking each week about different issues we have. Basically, because we were changing our advertisement message to fit Facebook rules, and basically we changed it already maybe 100 times, the same messaging, the same advertisement in the right way to adjust to Facebook rules. And still we are blocked every time. I said, okay, what's going on here? He read it. He said, look, first block is always from the bots, always. Yeah, they just look for the keywords in your messaging, in your videos, because we're running video ads. And if they don't like it, some scripts are pushing like, okay, it's a red flag for this. They just block you. Next thing, TJ gone? Okay, next thing is when you appeal and ask for to review your advertisement, the next stage is always human. And humans who working on Facebook, usually they have too much time. They don't have so much time to get deep into your advertisement, and they just look at some history of your account and just block it. Sometimes at the same day, I have blockage of the same ad 10 times and 10 other ads are allowed. The same ads, the same everything, the same. So, you just need to repeat again until you get through their firewall. And basically,
What's funny, Martin? Like for my account, it started with everything controversial, contraband, like from the adult recreational toys, tobacco, and then tuna. I was like, it's like painting like someone who's a super villain. Like, what is this guy trying to do business? Like, why is it like everything we stand against? This guy's in our platform. What is he doing here, right? But in reality, you just really want to try to make everyone happy, like your stakeholders, the client, the business, and the platform itself. Because You're in the middle. You're a sandwich. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Now you're poking in a topic that requires a full session. Artificial intelligence are not to be trusted when it comes to dealing with things that can be other than what they are. So all the hype you hear about artificial intelligence, look at it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because this is deceiving.
The AI will take over our jobs, but it can't even identify a dog from a cat. But yeah.
It will never ever be able to take or replace humans, as long as it is not a sort of routine task or repetitive things that stays the same, right? Once you, let us say, you rationalize a process within a company and jump over a task in the chain, that AI system needs quite a considerable modifications to actually take that into consideration, because the data sets needs to be reprogrammed. So, you know, it's not yeah. Well, anyway, it's a totally separate topics that requires a lot of stuff, but it frustrates me how people goes about it, because it's ignorance.
Sounds like a good GBO virtual event next topic. And let's be careful. We're on the internet, so Skynet might be listening. You're probably primary target soon. Who knows, right? Let's take it easy. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
I would have been shut off a long time ago then.
TJ, you're going to post a message of this meeting on Facebook and it's going to get blocked.
But oh no, this guy's against AI and all these controversies he's been dealing with during the pandemic. Like,
no, I'm not against. I'm not against AI. Look at what it has done for the healthcare and medicine in science. Artificial intelligence has actually helped create wonders. Yeah, so it's a bit like what Aristotle said. There are things in the universe that cannot be other than what they are. They need to be studied, understood, so we can handle them when something goes wrong, right? But then he said there are things in the universe that can be other than what they are. We must not use what we learn from the former to address the latter. And we have done that in business, and it has only created greed. Capitalism is a greed thing now, as opposed to growth, which was the fundamental intention of capitalism. So,
it happens. Well, most AI systems nowadays need the internet, because the powerful servers are not affordable for every Joe or every Juan, in my case, because I'm in the Philippines. So, internet really also plays a big role for that. Okay, there are other people in here that haven't participated or asked a question, so I'm going to poke a little bit and see what they think about this topic. Elias, do you have anything to say? Michael, how are you doing? And Bernard? Or perhaps Sharon?
Sorry, I'm on the street. I'm on the street at the moment. I'm driving, so I couldn't participate. I'll just listen. Thank you.
Okay, cool. We don't want to witness something we don't want to witness. Okay, Elias, Sharon, Bernard, any thoughts? Okay, Sharon's shy. Elias, let's go, Elias.
I don't have anything to comment. Internet is not my strength. Definitely marketing is also very important aspect of the business nowadays, especially for my industry. The advertising and internet is very, we have a lot of restriction how you use and promote our business. So there is a lot of things you cannot say. And obviously all these kind of tricks most of the time is not applicable in our profession. So in our profession, for example, is most important to show your presence in the internet, to educate, publish information, but you cannot say buy my service or I'm the best or the other one's the worst. So
Manushka, would you like to address Elias's? Elias, would you like to tell her what's your business first? Like a little bit background, like you want people to come to Cyprus, right? So yeah.
I have my own audit firm in Cyprus. I'm auditor, accountant, and tax consultant.
He's
Yeah, so
David in
definitely,
Cyprus.
yeah.
He's basically David Elephant in
Okay.
Cyprus. Okay.
Right. So when it comes to accounting and money, if it's not something that you're authorized to talk about directly, I think you can definitely stress out the educational aspect of taking care of your finances and managing a business and all the administrative side of it. But maybe it's also a good way to showcase case studies. So whether you have clients that are willing to be put forward, or that you can give all kinds of examples and even create stories around it, because people don't really like everything that has to do with administration and accounting or setting up a business. It's not really something that they do because they enjoy it. They do it because they have to and because there's a lot of rules that oblige them to do it. Where you're talking about it either in an educational way or even in an entertaining way, where you turn it into something that's kind of almost fun, either because you're joking about it because it's everyone's pain point, and you can turn it into something of, we're all experiencing this, and this company is actually going to make you have a less of a bad time when you're doing your accounting kind of thing. So there's a lot of ways that you can spin this around, where you're not saying buy my product or you'll get this commission rate or something that you're not allowed to say like that, where you go around it and you create a story around it and make it something that people can relate to.
I would share also, because I was running similar campaigns in Baltic states, in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia for accounting, business opening companies. We needed to switch off the campaigns, but it was not because of regulation. And it was maybe 5-6 years ago. So I'm not sure, maybe some new regulations comes into place. But we needed to switch off the campaigns because company was overbooked. They don't have capacity to expand. So basically, this is why I don't like physical businesses, because they always have the ceilings, and when you run the campaigns, it works perfectly, and then they call and say, shut down it. Oh my God. Okay, everything works, but you need to shut down. So I'm not sure, maybe Cyprus or they have some regulation, but basically what we were selling is just a free consultation to talk about your business in Cyprus. That's it. It's similar, and it always works. Of course, you need to have staff who will take on these calls and talk with people and get deep into those conversations. But I don't know. I don't see the big. You say I'm not big fan of maybe internet, or your business is not internet. It is on internet because business people are there, and I know a lot of people who are trying to open up the businesses in Cyprus. And as I know, Cyprus is kind of, I don't know, taxation heaven. Maybe something has changed. I'm not sure, but.
It's a low tax jurisdiction, not the tax haven. We're not BVI.
Oh,
a European Union country.
Elias, what I could say, coming from the Philippines, if you want to target Philippine business owners, target them during January. That's business permit renewal. So they have something to talk about that painful process. And on April, that's audit season in the Philippines. So that's also a painful process for them. They're looking for alternative places to do business with. So, January and April. Yes, January and April. Take note of that, just in case you want to target this market. Right, David? Am I right? Like, was the timing correct? January and April?
Well, it may not be the best time because they're so busy getting all these things done. And they're under a lot of pressure. So they don't have time to think about other things. So it should be done after.
After or before? In preparation? I guess after.
Well, all the business permit renewals are in January, and before that you have the holidays. So the best is February, unless they're Chinese.
They're treating you first like you're having a good time in December, and in January they just beat you up for fun. That happens. Okay. Well, Michael's driving, so I don't want to see something from that. Leanne, Kato, we're already 6:11, and I think the conversations are coming in. But perhaps like one more question for our speakers, Manushka and David. Someone wants to ask the last question? Anyone? Bernard, would you like to ask the last question about the internet and how we can leverage it to our business?
Well, internet is a strange animal to me. I've been using it a lot. I made a lot of it. I just joined in support of everything you do, and I wanted to congratulate you on gathering so many exciting members here around exciting subjects. So you set an example here for all of us, and so I'm happy to join in support and to learn from those interesting subjects. That's one of them I'm very interested in. Thank you for that.
Thank you also, Bernard. Okay. Okay. Would you like to ask Manushka one more question, just to conclude the session?
Sorry, did you say my name?
Okay, since you volunteered, let's go, Renee. You have a question to Manushka. There you go. I know it's a trap, but you're in it. You baited, so ask the last question.
Okay, let me have a look. I've got a few things I need to look up after seeing your presentation because I'm so new. There's a few acronyms, but I don't want to ask you acronyms because I can just check them later.
So for the acronyms, I've put a link here in the chat where you can register for my newsletter, and that way I'll send you a cheat sheet with all the acronyms and all kinds of resources that you can check out later on.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe that was worth it in itself. Thanks.
Okay. So the last question was about acronyms. You sure you don't want anything like, there's an expert right now. How do I grow my business 10x? 1 week campaign. I don't know how that works, Manushka, but maybe something.
Actually, I guess I have one more question about
with me, whether it's on LinkedIn or anywhere else, and if you have questions that come up later, just send me an email and we can get on a call.
Okay, sure, thanks. I do actually have one more question, but only I'll quickly ask it, and but be brief because I know people probably need to go soon. My question is about the tension between planning versus just kind of working organically. For example, when posting, usually for me in my own personal world, if I'm posting on Facebook versus Insta versus Twitter, I don't do the same post and put it on all. I put up something that I think is good for the people that I am interacting with on each of those. And I've seen a lot of events lately where new business owners will plan out a content for the next few weeks and so on. But I usually quite like to do things on the fly. But I wonder if you have thoughts on planning versus organic content creation or planning out what's going on those mediums.
Well, usually when you're in your day-to-day, it's quite hard to always think about posting something, and I think a lot of people will have a schedule that is pre-prepared simply because that way it's done and they don't need to worry about it, but it doesn't mean that they can't add things on the fly later on. So you can have a combination of both. But the reason a lot of businesses try to be consistent on social media is that it helps with the algorithm in order to keep their content to be seen by followers, basically. So I would say if you're not really into the planning, you don't need to go crazy about it, but try to have something consistent still going on. But also when it comes to how do you tailor for the different platforms, first of all, you want to select the right platforms for your target audience. So it can be a few different platforms, and it doesn't mean that they'll be following you on all of them, but they will use their platforms in a different way for different things. So for example, some people might use Twitter to follow more scientific stuff, whereas on Instagram, they'll be looking at the more visual stuff like creative artists and things like that. So if you're doing something about science, maybe it makes more sense to spend time on Twitter than on Instagram, whereas Facebook is more a blend of the two, and a lot of people are using it also for forums and more informational content. So it's really about selecting, first of all, where you're going to be spending your time and effort, and then try to have a mix between consistency and on the fly kind of post.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manushka and David. Especially David, he thought about everything today. So, thank you so much for helping me with my event troubles. Like, what topic should we have every week that's engaging? So, I have great people on support system, and Leanne too. She's an amazing coach. So, guys, I hope you enjoy our event, and I guess this is goodbye. But of course, we'll have more events. I think our next event would be the speaker would be Kato in the Philippines. This would be November 18, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check my calendar. Yep, it's on November 18. So we have Kato, same time in the Philippines, 5 p.m. until 6 actually, and we've overtime 17. That's how interesting the internet is and how to leverage it. Thank you so much, Manushka. And yeah, see you guys next time. Goodbye, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you too. Bye bye.